Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Gary A. Swaby, and you're now listening to Powercast episode 14. And we're going to be discussing Power Season 4, Episode 4. And today I'm joined by Mr. Richard Bailey Jr. How are you doing, Rich?
Doing pretty good, Gary. How are you doing? And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show.
Yep, good evening indeed. And I heard a siren, so maybe that's Jamie St. Patrick, on his way to jail or something like that. But yeah, Dana, what's up, Dana?
Hello, everyone.
Oh, so you're live on the scene of Power right now because I can hear that siren.
Right now, there's things going down, possible murders, drugs everywhere. It's a big SWAT team.
Oh, it's going down. All right, yeah. So a lot happened in this episode of Power that just aired today. So I'm gonna try and be real brief with this quick recap, and then I'm gonna get to some more points later as we have our discussion. But I'm just gonna focus on like the main points of what happened because it was a very important episode. So in this episode, we see Jamie telling Proctor that when Tommy goes to deliver the money to Teresi, he should he should inquire about the murder of a guy called Saletti. And he also wants some info on Marshall Williams, who's still terrorizing him. Then we see Angela meeting with Tasha, and Angela tells Tasha that they offered Jamie a deal, and she puts the option on the table of Tasha possibly testifying against Jamie. So she puts that in her head, and I guess Tasha kind of contemplates it a little bit, but later on she visits Jamie in prison and she tells him not to make any more decisions without her. So she wants Jamie to be 100% honest and tell her what's going on the inside. And in court later on, we see Proctor calls Agent Donovan, I think his name is, to the stand, and he questions him about the gun that was found in Jamie's office. And Proctor also claims that the weapon was planted, and he even goes as far as to accuse Donovan of being exposed by Greg as the mole, and he killed Greg to cover it up. So after that, Donovan kind of explodes. He's outraged, and he has some nasty words for Proctor. And then later on, we see Tommy dropping off the money to Teresi's henchman, and he inquires about what the henchman actually did. What his reputation is like, and he brings up Staletti and the Staletti murder, and it kind of gets a little rise out of the henchman a little bit, but then they're interrupted by Tony's wife. And then later on, Proctor calls Bailey to try and flip him and get him into the case to favor Jamie a little bit. And Bailey actually tells Proctor that he has evidence and that they should meet later on so that he can show him the evidence that he has. And at this point, he also suggests that the evidence may suit Jamie if Jamie wants to testify against Tommy Egan. And then later on, we see Teresi's henchman calling him, and he simply says, "It's him." So, yeah, we'll get back to that later to, analyze what that means. But, the henchman tells Tony that it's him in reference to Tommy. And Proctor warns Tommy that Bailey has some sort of evidence on him, and Tommy actually suggests that he should be lurking around when they meet later on because he wants to know what the evidence is. He kind of forces his way into it. And then later on, we see Bailey actually plays the recording that he has, which is the evidence, and it's Tommy killing Ruiz. And out of nowhere, Tommy swoops in and he kills Bailey in front of Proctor. And that incriminates Proctor as well because, Proctor's not going to snitch. unless Proctor goes right to the police station that night and, you know, confesses everything, he's now incriminated in that murder because, you know, he didn't say anything. So yeah, Proctor, later on, Proctor is actually withdrawn from the case because the prosecution puts forward an argument that, you know, Proctor is, you know, he has a conflict of interest because, you know, he's trying to sway Jamie into not testifying against Egan because Egan is also his client. So yeah, they present that argument against the judge, and Proctor is then withdrawn from the case completely. And yeah, at the end of the show, Proctor visits Angela, and, you know, he's very angry. He pleads with her to see reason, and this leads to Angela later on looking at surveillance of Jamie's office at Truth, and she sees that Jamie didn't go nowhere near where the gun was found, and the last name that reviewed that footage was Sandoval. So she comes to some sort of realization there, and that's where the show ends. So yeah, a lot more did happen as well. I have a lot of other notes, but we'll bring that up as we go along. So Richard, what's your initial thoughts after seeing that episode where so many things happened?
Well, first and foremost, definitely a very eventful episode, in my opinion. Plenty of things happening at the same time. I'm not really sure where I should begin, but so yeah, let's go ahead and begin this whole thing with Tasha. And you know, they're trying to sway Tasha to turn on Jamie. And you know, one thing I did notice throughout this episode is that everyone is questioning her. Well, can you trust him? Well, maybe you should need to look out for yourself. So I feel as though they're putting that in place to build to something later. Maybe there will be something that happens later in the season in which she will have to turn on Ghost. I mean, the whole theme of the season is who will turn. So we'll have to see what that is, what's going on with that whole dynamic. But obviously, I do feel something will happen with her major this season. She is a lot more independent in how she acts, so she may have to take some matters into her own hands. I want to take a minute to give a shout out to Carmelo Anthony, because I know he had a hard time watching this episode because of, once again, his ex messed around with Tommy. And, you know, the show always have to show these steamy romance scenes, you know. So, but yeah, we saw quite a bit of, you know, of Lala this time around. So I was a little surprised with that. But, you know, obviously, Tommy, what he has with Lakeisha is actually something that is good. I feel as though he definitely is keeping some information from her, though. And, you know, eventually he may have to, you know, reveal some stuff to her, or he can stay concealed. That's really up to him. But that is the positive side of Tommy. As for the negative side, you know, I still think he's having some issues controlling people within his group. And you're starting to see a lot of that now with the way that they interact with each other, with Dre, Julio, and the other gentleman that also, I believe it's Dominguez, or he's related to the other guy. They're having some issues, and I do think that that is going to come to a head because there's some conflicts there. Julio is trying to, you know, really step into his role as distro, and, you know, Tommy is kind of stepping on his toes a little bit. So there is going to be some more tension if there already wasn't enough. And I think that this is just the beginning of that whole process. And as for what happened with Proctor this episode, it's unfortunate, you know, but now we know what was the whole purpose of them bringing in this other character, Terry. So now Ghost has to work with this guy, even though he don't like him, because, you know, this guy looks at him a different way. So it's a very interesting dynamic. I have to say, I enjoyed the scene where Donovan blew up. You know, he's, you know, I really got a kick out of seeing that, because just the guy just lost it. And that character always seemed somewhat reserved, but now he just lost his cool. But the fact that Proctor is no longer involved, and the fact that he's seen so much and has heard so much, I'm very curious to see what's going to happen with that now, because he isn't involved. I just don't know whether or not, you know, because Tommy probably doesn't know yet that he's not involved anymore. So now he has to question whether or not he can trust Proctor, you know, whether or not he's going to reveal information, so on and so forth. So we'll have to see how that turns out. And as for the other individual that did not make it this episode, again, you know, Tommy is a very reckless character, but I have to admit that I love to see the character get reckless and do dangerous stuff. So unfortunately, we said last episode this guy was a goner because he had sensitive information. So sooner or later that was going to catch up to him. And unfortunately, that is what happened. And very quick for it to happen. So I'm very curious to see what happens from here on out because there's just so many different things going on in this episode. Definitely one of the better episodes. I did enjoy it a lot more than last week's episode, so I look forward to seeing where the storyline goes from here.
Oh yeah, definitely. Dana, any thoughts on the events of that episode?
Yes. One, I want to congratulate the writers for speeding it up a little bit. You know, compared to last week's episode, it was a little humdrum, a little boring, but it got right back into the pace that was, it made it move quickly. Everything was fast and a lot of different things went down. First of all, I wanted to say that I still, again, applaud Tasha for not basically killing Angela right then and there. But we're going to see, I think we're going to probably see a much stronger Tasha and seeing her end up taking the role a bit more with this whole situation of Ghost being in prison. I see her maybe in the future, hopefully she's going to have to be the one that's running things because as Richard pointed out, everything is falling apart. And I want to see Tasha finally, as I stated before, make her own way out of this whole situation. You know, maybe possibly ended up flipping on Ghost, which, yes, will be a very deep betrayal to him, but she really has to do it for her own survival at this point. Because if Ghost does go away for prison, and it could be a very long time, all the way up to life, we don't know, then she's gonna end up losing a lot more than I think she would if she would just flee and flip on him. I don't know the extent of the flippage per se, but I want her to go the full way and for her to get out. And also by her getting out, it would help Tariq with his little incident and situations that he's feeling, and he's feeling himself as clearly as we saw with Destiny. I just want her to have more control and have more, as you said, power. And I think that everything is falling apart, and she would make a very strong character to either take control of everything or to just end up fleeing. But Ghost right now is stuck in a predicament where he's still in prison. His entire team is falling apart. And right now, I wouldn't necessarily call him helpless, but he doesn't really have much power. The situation with Proctor being disqualified was a bit like, oh my gosh, it was a bit shocking for me. But again, it goes to play with what's going on with this season. We never know what to expect is going to happen. I would just say overall, I was really excited for this episode.
Yeah, I think Proctor being taken off the case is definitely a big deal. But it's also
things around because we just don't know what's going to happen anymore.
Yeah, indeed. And it's also, you know, a big counter blow as well, because they actually got the gun denied in this episode as well. Because, like they put forward the case about the gun. And, you know, right around the same time when Proctor gets taken off, the judge actually says that the gun is denied. So, yeah, we don't know what's going to happen from here. You know, what's left to happen with the case and everything. But yeah, Proctor being taken out the game is a big deal because we know that he was very passionate about the case and he was willing to put in the extra hours and the extra effort to make sure that, you know, Jamie's defense was solid. And we don't know if Terry's gonna, you know, put in that same dedication to the case. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out with, you know, Terry and Jamie going forward at this point. Did you have something else you wanted to say, Dana?
Other than that, this was really, it moved pretty quickly, and that it changed the way how I kind of perceive things are going to be.
Mm.
Everyone, I always, like you guys already know, that I really wanted Ghost to be in jail, and or possibly, I don't know, through some way killed off. But this, by Proctor being disqualified, could actually mean that this happens, and it'll change the dynamic of the show. And I don't know if it's too early for this to start happening right now if he does ends up losing the case, but it does not look very good for Ghost at this moment. And if he does, say, end up staying in prison, say, for throughout the season, I don't know how that's going to actually come into play. And for
Right.
that to actually happen, I just want I don't know if they're going to end up splitting there to be prison drama as well as outside drama that's going around. And I don't know if I necessarily want to see all these different dramas happening at the same time. I personally kind of want Jamie to get out of prison, but at the same time, I just feel that it'll probably end up moving the story along, and it'll tie up a lot of these loose ends that's going on. And again, I don't really know what's going to happen to Tasha, and Tariq also is acting a mess again, and he deserves to have a little butt whooping, but that's a whole nother story. So I'm just so sick of Tariq. I really am.
Oh yeah,
But
we all are at this point.
and I know he's acting out, and I know there's a reason as to why, but it's just like he just needs a real good butt whooping. But yeah. I think this one butt whooping would just solve it. Or he needs to actually watch someone die, and it'll just put him on that straight path again.
Yep, I agree. So yeah, I wanted to specifically ask about Angela because now, at the end of the episode, it seems like, she's come to some sort of revelation, and, she was the one that was really driving for this whole thing to happen with Jamie. Like, she wanted him arrested. She was adamant that he, murdered Greg and everything. And obviously, she seriously regrets even being with Jamie at this point. So, she's very emotional in that sense as well. But, now she's seen that footage and she's seen that, it doesn't quite add up. What do you think her next move is going to be? Like, is she going to rush into the meeting with, the prosecution team and be like, look, I don't think Jamie did this anymore? Or, is she going to kind of hold back what she knows and what she feels at that moment and just kind of go with the flow? Still, what would you think her next move will be, Rich?
Yeah, I think, well, I do have two things to say on this. First and foremost, I think her next move will be to try and do what she can to stop things from moving forward. I think things are already too far into the process. But, I mean, she needs to obviously, that video footage, I think she will try to get that video footage in front of the judge, or at least get the people on her team to look at it. One thing I was going to say that I really don't really understand is, when I talked about last week in the fact that it doesn't feel as though they had enough information for it to go this far, but I guess you had the fact that you had the fingerprints and, that Greg, that Jamie was in Greg's apartment, so on and so forth. But there wasn't any video footage. And that was why I was like, well, where's the video footage? Because you need to have the footage to, when you talk about you going to kill somebody, well, where's the footage? You have to you have to have enough to prove that this guy actually did it. And I didn't feel as though they had enough evidence, even though they had the weapon. I don't think that his fingerprints weren't on the weapon. So, but you still needed to actually see, and knowing that they had cameras in that facility, they should have had access to that footage a long time ago and already saw that before they made the determination that, yes, he was involved. But they all went on the instinct and the motive that when he was already messing around with Angela, he already had a history in the incident with Greg, so they figure, oh, yeah, well, he definitely did it. So I think that's a little ridiculous, though, that they would go to that limit without having any evidence. And now that the video footage is out there, and Angela's surprised, oh, wait, he didn't do it. Well, no shit, he didn't do it. So, you know, obviously, I think she will try to do what she can to get in front of the judge, in front of those other people. And that may lead to the case getting thrown out. But yeah, I do expect a resolution quick now because of that. Because, I mean, that pretty much proves that he didn't have access to it. You know, the murder weapon was left in there. So that clearly shows that he is innocent. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I think at this point, you know, everyone on the prosecution team has kind of their own motive and agenda. We know that, you know, Angela is just angry about, you know, what happened with Jamie and everything. And with John, the new character, he seems like he just wants to beat Proctor, you know, and Sandoval, of course, is the actual culprit. So he wants to, you know, cover up and make it look like it was Jamie. So it's like everyone has their own motive and agenda on that team. So they're completely just overlooking all the signs that Jamie is actually innocent for the murder. So yeah, I think that's what it is. Like they just don't care enough to watch the footage because they don't want him to be innocent anyway. Yeah, so I think that's the reality of that situation. But yeah, it is a really shallow case to put forward, to be honest, and we can see that it's being picked apart because the DNA got thrown out already, and now the gun's been denied. So yeah, I'm not sure what is left to stand on at this point. I believe Jamie should probably actually get out soon, but we know that Sandoval's still in the mix, and he can, you know, he can throw a spanner in the works at any moment. So yeah, very interesting at the moment. But Dana, what do you think about Angela, and what will her next move be, in your opinion?
Okay, see, this is what happens. I think that Angela right now, what she needs to do is still focus on the case and to get Jamie put away. I don't care whether or not he's innocent or guilty. There have been people who have been on trial for committing murder, and they've been convicted, and they've never even found the body with very little evidence. We see this happening in real life all the time. My thing is that if I wasted all this time and energy trying to put someone in prison, I don't care what it is that I have to do, they will still be in prison. So I don't care if she has to make up evidence, hide evidence, figure out evidence, call up one of her best friends, Pookie, to create evidence. She should do it. I'm not going to.
There's only one problem with that.
What?
This is a very complicated relationship. You know, she still got feelings for Jamie.
Let me explain something. And I can say this from my point of view as being a woman. Women are very emotional, and they're also very revengeful. They will not forget. And the thing is that when it comes to being emotional, yeah, we may do things that we could later on regret, and it's really stupid. But at that moment in time, we may feel that we're justified because you hurt us, no matter what the situation may be. So in my eyes, from how I would want it to go, I would be very angry at Jamie. I would still find a way, you know, to get him in to stay in prison. Even if it may not be for the length that I want it to be, I still want him to be in prison and to suffer. So she needs to figure out something and hide evidence, as I said, create the evidence, do something with evidence to let him stay in there. And to
I don't see her messing with evidence.
I don't see her messing with evidence at all, but I'm just saying that would be a very good. I spend a whole bunch of hours trying to get you in jail, and I dedicate myself to getting you in jail, and I'm very angry at you. Then I'm going to figure out a way for you to stay in jail.
See,
yeah, like
exactly a squeaky. She's not a squeaky clean lady.
I do agree that she will want him to suffer in terms of the jail thing, but the fact that they are now trying to kill him with the death penalty, I think that changes things a lot more because she's already had a relationship with him. She knows he has kids. She knows how much that would devastate the kids.
Your kids.
Well, that's I don't know. We'll see.
That's the consequences that you pay.
I think what's more likely, because I understand that at this point she's come so far, and you know, to now claim that Jamie is innocent would ruin her credibility, and she'd probably be fired after that. So I think what the best option for her would be to do is to spin the case and try and create the Tommy Jamie angle and incriminate him as Ghost. So like she should just spin in another direction, because
right, and it doesn't
clearly
have to be a death penalty. You can try something for a lesser charge.
Yeah.
Either way, she could do that. I see that
Yeah,
happening as a woman. She's not someone who's all, you know, squeaky clean and gonna do things by the book. No. So why not find a way, find an angle to still get him in prison? Let him sit maybe a year or two.
I think
that's the thing. I don't think anybody wants him to sit in prison. They want him to get killed before any of that, all the other stuff.
Well, you can easily get killed in prison.
yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
You're more likely to die in prison than you are outside.
Yeah, he can get killed by that guy, Biscuit, that Biscuit guy. Yeah, that's possible.
Yeah, so speaking of the prison, we know that you know, Marshall Williams, aka Charlie Murphy, is still harassing Jamie, because at the start of the show, you know, Jamie's in the gym and the marshal comes in and, you know, he drops the weights on him and stuff. So he's still harassing him, and Jamie actually asked Proctor to find information on him. We haven't, you know, seen the results of that yet, but, you know, I wanted to hear some theories. Dana, I believe you, your theory was that either Dre or Kanan might have planted him. Do you feel like that might be the case?
Yes. See, remember, I had the two theories. I had that, yes, he was, and Richard had the other theory about the guy being his father, but that is clearly not the case. My theory was that he was planted. I like that theory, and even if I'm wrong, I'm still going to say that that's my theory. Right now, Marshall is just being very annoying, and I don't take him as being a massive threat. So I'm not even I don't really feel that that is the correct theory, even though my theory is wonderful. I feel that maybe he's just someone who doesn't fully know what he's getting himself into by bothering Jamie all the time. So he could just be one of those guys who's trying to, you know, up himself in prison and be the bad guy and have everyone fear him. But right now he's just becoming very annoying to me, and he could just go away.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't, you know, I mean, obviously we don't get to see the other inmates a lot, but it doesn't seem like he's bothering other people. It just seems like he has some sort of personal vendetta against Jamie for some reason. So
I don't know if it's a personal vendetta or it's the fact that, hey, Jamie is known as this big guy, you know, on the streets. And as a result, I'm going to see what I can do. I'm going to get under his skin. And in that way, the other prisoners will be like, oh, look, he's bothering Jamie. We better not mess with him. I don't even know. He looks like someone who gets bullied, so he bullies other people in order to stop being bullied.
Yeah, well, yeah, you got a point. That could be the case. Richard, you got any theories?
Yeah, so as for Charlie Murphy's character, once again, you know, still sad about what happened to him. I mean, it is also unfortunate that he would play this character. You know, you going out playing pretty much a bad guy. But I will say this: it is possible that, you know, he does have ties to Kanan. You know, we know Kanan was already in prison, so, you know, he easily could have made friends in there, and that could be one of the guys that was in there. Now, we are going to eventually find out, I guess, what happens to that character because of the fact that he tried to kill or, you know, harm or hurt Jamie in the actual prison. That is coming, but we have to see how that pans out. One comment I did want to make, though, is that I 100% believe that Tarasi is Tommy's father because of the scene that happened in this particular episode when Tommy came by the house to do the drop. And once he got the information, the guy who was also friends with Tarasi told him, yes, it's him. And the fact that Tarasi refuses to tell his wife who this kid is, who Tommy is, I mean, all of that points to, okay, yeah, there probably is some type of relation there. And that's why I say that has to be his son, because, you know, we've never heard anything about Tommy's having a father. I mean, obviously he did have a father, but we never heard anything about the father. So I think that is a possibility. Obviously, we have to see what goes on with that. But the fact that he's keeping this information away from his wife is very suspect, because, you know, especially when we know that the whole thing was that she was mad she didn't have kids for him, and he got mad when she said that in a couple episodes ago. So we'll see how that all comes to a head. But yeah, Charlie Murphy's character, I don't know what else is going to be left for that character. I think that eventually Ghost will get out. I don't know how soon he will get out, but maybe they will reveal more about what that character's intentions are, who he's connected to. But I think it's not far-fetched to think that he is in some way affiliated with Kanan and company. But we'll have to see how all that turns out.
Yeah, you bring up a really interesting point about Tarasi. I definitely feel like that confirmation from, you know, his henchman, it can kind of confirms that, you know, Tarasi is probably, you know, Tommy's dad. But we also get a scene later on, which I didn't mention before, where you know, Jamie and Tony, they actually meet, you know, in prison. And now that Jamie has the information that, you know, Tarasi was involved in that murder, he then tries to blackmail him. So he counter blackmails him, and, you know, it leads to an interesting exchange, because, you know, Tony is like, oh, I'm already in here for life pretty much, so, you know, all you're doing is boosting my reputation a little bit. And, you know, Jamie actually mentions the wife, the sick wife, and that gets Tony angered. And, you know, at that point, Jamie has the leverage, because, you know, he knows as much as Tony knows at that point. So yeah, at that point, I think the deal is off. So, you know, no more money to Tony at that point. But do we feel like Tony's going to clap back after that? Because it seems like he's not going to let it go. And the fact that he might be Tommy's father, that kind of also gives him some leverage for later. So it's going to be interesting to see what his next move is. Does anyone have any theory on that? I'll go with whoever unmutes first. There you go, Rich.
Yeah, I absolutely think that that storyline is far from over. That character, I am curious to see what he does now. I mean, the thing is that his henchman now knows who's Tommy is. They're able to identify him. So if they are still doing underhanded business stuff, which I'm pretty sure they are, what's to say that they don't run into Tommy? And that'll be when further conversations are had. I mean, I'm not really sure how the writers are going to play that out, but yeah, this character, this storyline is still going on. Will he try to take another action against Ghost? Possibly. As long as Ghost stays in jail, I feel like it's open season, so anything could happen to the character at that point. Like Dana said earlier, the character could get killed, although I don't believe that the writers will do that, because, I mean, this guy is important to the show. But obviously, I think all of this stuff, anything goes. There's a lot of unpredictability as far as the what has happened so far this season. So we have to see how they decide to frame that storyline. But I absolutely positively think that you will get more answers about all of this other stuff. You know, this was planted early in the season so that as the season comes to a head, we learn more details. And, you know, maybe there will be a cliffhanger at the end of the season that actually confirms this information, but we'll have to see how it's all put together.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick to my theory as well, that, you know, because clearly these guys are like ex-mobsters or whatever. I feel like they're gonna get involved in the drug trade somehow, and maybe even control it next, you know, because usually there's always that big controlling character that, you know, has kind of control over you know, Tommy and Jamie. You know, it used to be Lobos, then it was what's dude's name from last season, Milan, and you know, now it could be these guys. We don't know, but that it seems possible to me because they obviously have the criminal experience and probably the connections to control a lot of things. But Dana, what's your thoughts on Tarasi and where that's going?
I kind of like your theory, and plus it makes for a wonderful struggle if it does happen throughout the season to see who ends up with actual power. And just because you're on the top doesn't necessarily mean you're going to stay there. So it could be an introduction to even more people. So
Yeah,
I like your theory the best.
Yeah, you know, let me just make a real quick comment. And I believe Dana was going to say some more, but let me just say this. I do know that they did announce earlier this week that Lorenz Tate signed on for next season. So never know what that character could be. That character could be involved in this as well. But, you know, I guess we'll have to wait and see.
He's Ghost's brother.
Interesting.
It'll just be a whole family. Ghost is just a reunion.
It could be. It could be.
Lorenzo needs to age so I can take him seriously. I'm just him like the kid brother who's going to hang out with Tariq and play basketball.
Yeah, but listen, I will say this: if it is a family thing, and I mean, well, damn, he got a lot of brothers because his other brother was on House of Lies, so that's kind of ridiculous.
I can't. But who knows? I don't know. Maybe he'll get a piece of oh fart. Lala Anthony. Her name is skipping me. Her character.
Lakeisha.
There you go. Who knows at this point what he'll be, but yeah, he could end up hilariously taking charge of the whole drug activity. Who knows what he can bring to the character, or maybe he's just Tariq's babysitter.
Yeah, I think Lorenz Tate is going to be the one who finally brings the belt to Tariq's butt. So yeah, I think he's definitely it's going to give him some discipline.
Scared straight. It's you know, have Tariq get arrested, scared straight. To be yelling, "Hey, you don't want to be in here like me. Not for life. You don't want to be in here like me." Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, that kid needs some serious help for sure. Yeah, in this episode, there's also an interesting exchange between Dre and the drug connect that they're working with. And during this conversation, they actually mention Tommy and Julio. Like, so they mentioned Tommy acting weird, and you know, Dre brings up Julio is like the fact that he doesn't have a grip on things, and you know, they seem to be having like a real intimate conversation, and it kind of transitions out of the scene before we get more of it. So I feel like that might be building up to something to where Dre might be trying to make a move. What would you guys
Shades.
think? Yeah, shades from Luke Cage.
These shades. You said the quietness that he is, even the conversation is all like quiet and everything. That's shades. And he's going to be the one who's, remember I said, he's whispering things in everyone's ear. Is going to be taken out by Julio, possibly. Who knows? Remember, everything's going crazy, and he's talking to Julio about it, and Julio wants to be a part of the action. He wants to be, you know, respected in everyone's eyes. So I see that happening. Don't ever knock Dre. I think every scene right now with him is important.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. But go ahead, Rich.
No, I agree with that 100%. And I think that, you know, for people who have been watching Power since season 1, you know that Julio is still considered like a little right-hand man to Tommy and Ghost, even though he's not really heavily featured. I mean, he was throughout every season. He had his time, but I think if you see that him and Tommy get into something and, you know, Tommy has to kill him, that may really, you know, I don't know if shock is the right word, but it will surprise some people, because, you know, you would think that, you know, and from watching the show in the beginning, you realize, yeah, these guys are pretty tight. They always work well together. But then you see this is what happens when people get in positions of power, where things change. Their whole demeanor changes, and then they decide to change up on others. So I'll be very interested to see how that particular dynamic evolves over time. But yeah, Dre is definitely planning something. And as you both have already alluded to, definitely, quiet but observant of the situation. He could be planning to do something in the end. Now, while I will say that he is definitely proving to be worthy in terms of a businessman and running the club and doing the drug thing, I still am not convinced yet that he has an answer for Kanan, unless this is something that gets revealed later, because I still don't really think that he he hasn't shown his hands as to how he's going to deal with that situation yet. So we'll obviously have to wait for the storyline to develop over time. But as for the drug and the club dynamic, I feel like he is learning to handle that situation, and that may be vital at the end of when all is said and done, because Ghost may not be able to go back to ever managing that club. Once he does get out, his reputation is going to be in a real bad place. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and speaking of the club, towards the end of this episode, we see the police shutting down a lot of stuff. So they shut down Keisha's salon. They also shut down Club Truth. And also there's also a scene where Tasha is at the children's school, and she's talking to the principal about security and how the paparazzi got in to take pictures and yada yada yada. And the principal actually tells Tasha that the bank has refused to pay for her students to attend the school and everything. So then the bank isn't approving the payments anymore. So unless they pay that money by the end of that week, the kids will be expelled. So a lot of stuff is getting shut down because of the case and everything. How do you feel like this is going to play out in the next couple episodes? Because if Truth is out the picture, then obviously that's a big part of what Dre does. So that has a huge effect on that. And the salon, Keisha, that got shut down, and the kids, like, that's a big deal too, because if there's no school, then Tariq's going to be at Kanan's house all day. So what do you guys think's going to happen in the next couple episodes with all of that happening? Go ahead, Dana.
First of all, this is why Tasha she should plan better. Always have like some money stored up, so you don't ever rely on one person in case anything goes down. Me personally, yes, Tariq needs school, but at this point, I don't even think he wants to go. So I would see him being slightly elated by this whole situation, but it's very unfortunate, and it shows the rippling effect that Ghost is having while being in prison. I do think, and I do hope that something does pan out and it does work out. Judging by how this case is going, I don't exactly see them unfreezing those assets. So she's going to have to start relying on people to start, behaving and getting in line. But at the same time, everything is going slowly. It's falling apart. So I think that possibly they are going to end up not being able to go to school. There's going to be some, as it's already being teased, the money is going to start dwindling, and who knows, maybe they're going to have to move out of their home. And as a result, Tariq is going to end up staying more over at Kanan's house, which is kind of what Kanan wants to begin with. And I think that he's going to, continue to turn his son. And it makes for a very interesting dynamic for if Ghost does get out of prison. So I actually like them not having money from a storyline standpoint. But Tasha should have had a secret bank account somewhere for this. So I'm partially mad at her.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. And, all of this is definitely going to put a lot of strain on Tasha, because somebody at this point, somebody's going to have to step in and
which is
help
why
her out. Say that again.
This is why she should flip.
Yeah, this is why she should
for
consider
her
it.
to flip.
Yeah. But what I think is going to happen is I feel like she's going to have to ask somebody for help, and that's probably going to be Tommy. So, maybe Tommy is going to have to kind of be that figure that helps both Keisha and Tasha, financially, because, their business is shut down, the money's shut down and everything. So I think that's going to put a lot more responsibility on Tommy. And, maybe even there'll be somebody else who helps Tasha out. We don't know. But yeah, and with the club, that creates a lot of interesting scenarios for Dre as well, because now he doesn't have the club to run, and he's going to need some sort of hustle to be able to give Kanan his money, because he was getting a lot of that money from the club by selling the drugs in the club. So yeah, now he's going to have to resort to other methods to get that money from the drug trade to pay Kanan. So it's going to put Dre in a lot of interesting situations, I think. Rich, you got any thoughts on any of that?
Yeah, I just was going to add that what you mentioned earlier about Dre having the conversation with the other guy who they've been working with. Well, yeah, he can probably easily now establish a relationship with him and maybe work some deals with him. In the meantime, if he needs to get some quick money, provided, knowing if the club is going to be down for a while. We don't really know yet how that's going to pan out. But as for the family, I think the family dynamic is the most severe of everything. I mean, yeah, Tasha having, or Lakeisha having her store shut down is bad as well. Even though she wasn't tied to this, it's bad for her also. But I think it affects the family even more so, the kids, because they can't go to school. That's a big problem. And, I'm glad that they did show the long-ranging effects of Jamie's choices, how it impacts everybody that is involved with him to some degree. I think they needed to show that. I still think it's going to get a lot worse, though, provided, depending on how the storyline pans out, I do think it's going to get worse before it gets better. But I just say, yeah, a lot of characters are in a very interesting place now because of these changes. So I'll be very curious to see how everything pans out eventually. But yeah, it's desperation times for everybody. And as you said, Tasha may ask someone for assistance with money. Not really sure who that is at the moment, but it could very well be Tommy. I'm not sure, but we'll have to see how everything goes.
Can I also say one thing?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
This is not the end all because you don't have money to go to school. Public school exists.
Yeah.
So, yeah, which will make for a very interesting dynamic on an educational aspect of things for them to see exactly how the other half lives.
That is a very good point.
I think would be on par with the story.
Yeah.
So
the transition.
I would like that. Yep. That lovely downfall.
Yeah, and that's going to be a big wake up call for Tariq, I think, because being in public school,
actually, for some reason, I see Tariq has this inner battle. He loves his life as it is, and he loves and respects his family, but he doesn't know exactly what it is for what he wants to do with the whole situation. He doesn't know how to process this. I think that he's struggling. And that he turns to Kanan as to someone that he thinks could be guidance. And also could be attracted to that allure of, oh, this man is aggressive and, and he looks like someone who's really threatening and he's introducing me to things. So on that side, it's like excitement. He's lost and he needs a mentor. And when he ends up going to public school, I think that could be the best thing for him. That can be the Scared Straight program. Because public school, as we all know, is vastly different from private school.
This is correct.
The educational aspects to the economic aspects. Mm-hmm. So by him doing that, and he's surely going to get his behind whooped once he goes into any type of public school. So that would be wonderful.
That's exactly where I was going with it, because it's definitely it's not going to be easy for him, you know, because he's been sheltered his whole life and he's been in private school, and you know, being exposed to Kanan is the only real, you know, it's the only real eye-opening experience he's had in terms of the rough side of life. So once he goes to public school, you know, that's when he's really gonna get woke, because like, you know, the kid, there's gonna be transition period where the children are gonna see him as, you know, the new weirdo, and they're all gonna bully him. Like he's gonna be the one that's bullied. So yeah, and I feel like that's when he'll lean a lot more on Kanan, because Kanan is obviously gonna give him advice on how to deal with that. So yeah, I think that's going to be an interesting dynamic if the whole public school thing happens.
Yeah, either way, Kanan wins, because he's already up under Kanan's behind.
Mm-hmm.
And by him going to the public school, and he's going to be like, "Oh, help me to defend myself," you know, and he's going to end up with a gun,
learn to fight,
and then he's going to lead to like an accidental shooting, and then he's going to end up going to juvie. So this is all what Tariq needs right now. This is leading to the path of Scared Straight. I like it.
Yeah, and to be honest, he needs an ass whooping, to be honest.
And he'll get one when he's in juvie.
Yeah.
For killing someone.
Yeah.
And he'll be just like his dad. Boom.
Yeah. You got any thoughts on that, Rich, before I get to the last question I had?
Oh, no, I mean, I pretty much agree with a lot that was said. You know, that's a very, very good point about the public school. So, yeah, I mean, all of this can happen. Although I just want to emphasize that, you know, I think we know certain things. I mean, it's unpredictable. You know, it may be a situation where maybe they may not have to go to a public school. I mean, I don't know. I do know, though, that I do believe that they will try to ask for some assistance from somebody. They will get assistance, but it's a question of who that person is and what they're going to want in return for that assistance. But
Tasha will be the prostitute.
No, hey, listen, no.
I think
that'll be, oh man, that'll be rock bottom. We don't want to see that.
The stripper pole.
That'll be rock bottom. There's no way they can do that. They can't do that.
They can.
I think Rich is thinking what I'm thinking, but I'll discuss that with him. But yeah, the last question I had before we get out of here was about Proctor. So he witnessed, you know, the murder of Bailey, you know, Greg's friend, and now he's off the case. So what's next for Proctor? Because now he doesn't have the case anymore. There's not really much reason for him to, you know, be around. So there's probably going to be some sort of story arc that brings him back into the fold to where we're still seeing him in the show and everything. So what do you feel like Proctor is going to do next now that he's off the case and that he's witnessed this murder? Anyone who wants to go first? Go ahead, Rich.
I think that Proctor done well as far as building a good level of trust with both Tommy and Jamie, but I really don't hope that they take this path. But I will say this, you know, as things start to get a lot more complicated and a lot more heated, we already know that Tommy is a crazy person, reckless. You know, now that Proctor is off the case, Tommy may think he is a liability, or he may question whether or not he can trust Proctor. So he may try to kill Proctor. Now, I want to say I don't want them to do that, because it feels like, you know, I've seen that happen in too many movies where there's a character where you think that there's trust, and then when things don't work out, they immediately kill that person. I hope they do not take that angle, because we've got to know more about Proctor. We know that he has a daughter. We know that he has a wife. It's a bad divorce, you know, strung out on drugs, all this other type of stuff that we've learned about the character. And then we also know how connected that character is to everybody in the little circle of Jamie and Tommy. So I would hope that he still will obviously keep up with the case, even though he can't actually participate in it. But I don't really know what his purpose will be yet. But I do know that he is going. I think he's still going to be around. I don't know what the story arc is. Like you said, Gary, I don't know what the story arc is for him from here on out. But I'm just hoping hoping they do not take that approach where, you know, well, now he's liability, he has to die too, because that'll be a waste for that to happen. Unless, of course, he gets killed by the enemy. And then that is a whole nother story in and of itself. But we'll find out what happens with that.
Yeah, I feel like if that's gonna happen, I don't think it's gonna happen this season. It might happen eventually because he does know a lot now, but I don't think it will happen in this season in particular. I'm not sure what's next for him. I feel like he might still try to help from the outside in some sense, but you know, obviously he can't get too close to Jamie or anyone associated with Jamie without it looking suspicious at the moment. But I feel like he'll still be trying to help from the outside, and we know that they kind of introduced Proctor's family, you know, at the start of the season as well. So maybe there'll be some story arcs there, and we know that Tommy is providing drugs for Proctor's wife and stuff. So yeah, I feel like that might get explored a little bit more now that he's off the case. What do you think, Dana?
I don't know, actually. I think that there will be some type of repercussion. I don't exactly see him dying right now because he just can't kill off everyone in one season.
Wow, I'm surprised to hear you say that.
I know, right? But Proctor's not like someone that we would miss. If he is,
really? I would miss him.
Really?
I think he's one of the best characters on the show, to be honest with you.
But he doesn't really necessarily deserve that killing. Not like Angela or the son.
I think Gary's thinking about Entourage. That's why he said he's one of the best characters on the show. Yeah. But this is a different character though. This character got a little bit of ghetto-ness to him as well. So it's a different situation.
He's not the same.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say one thing real fast. I think this was mentioned earlier. Yeah, it is bad about Proctor. Hopefully they do have something planned for him, but I believe that one of you said that, well, now Jamie has to work with Terry, and you have to be concerned about that. The thing about it is this: Terry, yes, the character is a character that looks down upon Jamie in some regards and thinks he knows the kind of person he really is. But he also had. Well, say what?
Don't hate on Terry.
Oh no, I'm not hating. I'm getting to a point here. But the point is that Terry has a reputation. And the one thing that they've said so far this season is that he has reputation for winning cases. So I think, yes, he will get Jamie out of there without question, because he is just that good. You know, again, they portrayed him as a character that he hasn't lost any cases. He wins. He's great. So he's going to get him out of there, even though, you know, Jamie and him may butt heads a couple of times, but I fully expect him to get him out of there sooner rather than later. So we'll have to see how that pans out. But obviously, I don't have any issues with the character. I feel though the character was needed, and the character is more important now because Proctor isn't there. So he is definitely needed at the moment.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think he's a very key character at the moment. But yeah, was there anything else that you guys wanted to bring up specifically? Because that was all I had to talk about this episode.
We're one more episode closer to Angela dying.
Yeah, I saw you posted that on Facebook. You're playing with my emotions right now.
I don't know when that's going to happen, but man, I don't think that's happening anytime soon, if at all. What'd you say?
The series finale. Ghost comes and has to kill everyone that betrayed him. Angela's the last kill. Boom.
Let me just say this real quick. If they do decide to kill Angela, I hope it is not in the cliche way, which would be, well, now that all of this thing happened with the case, you know, Ghost doesn't ever want to talk to Angela again, but then somebody tries to kill Ghost. Angela just happens to pop up and bam, bam, she's dead. I do not really hope the writers do not, because I have a feeling this is the type of writing that they can do that, because then it'll be like, oh, well, I do forgive you. I still love you, but you're about to be dead, so it don't matter. I really hope they don't take that approach.
Or Tommy could run her over in the car.
Oh, well, hey, listen, Tommy, hey, we'll see what happens with that. What'd you say, Gary?
I don't want to see that happen to her.
Yeah, I mean, I personally don't think, you know, when this show started, she has a major role in the show. You know, Ghost obviously has a major role in the show, and Tommy. So I feel like those three characters you can't touch unless, of course, this is the final season. And then in that case, then anyone could die. But I feel like if they were to kill off Angela, if they were to kill off Ghost, you will definitely see a decline in the people watching the show. I guarantee that 100%. Because people watching to see these characters, you know, not necessarily always a sexual scene either. They like the characters. They're very attractive to look at. So this is what people watch the show for. But that's just my opinion. I agree with that. See, yeah, okay, cool. I just did want to make sure I did say one thing real quick. I do want to give a shout out to the people that commented last time. You know, Nelly Mac 91 had a lot of great comments. In the future, definitely need to see about trying to get him on the show, because I think he would be a good addition to say some stuff. But I also wanted to give a shout out to Rainy J, because he left a comment that I thought was very interesting in regards to what may happen later this season, because I know that he mentioned that he looked up on IMDb and noticed that the actress that plays Ghost's daughter, Raina, she does not appear on the show anymore after episode 9. So that has led to speculation something may happen to that character. And I just want to say, I mean, obviously we don't know what's going to happen as far as the storyline, but I just want to say, if they make that decision that she is the one that does end up getting killed and it's involved with the brother, with Tariq, that would be some really, really excellent writing, because I don't think anyone would have expected her to be one of the people that gets killed. Because the way I'm looking at the story now is I'm seeing, well, Tariq is in a very dangerous place. You saw in this episode that the people, when he did that last robbery, they were very, very reckless, you know, very, you know, almost got caught. And I feel as though that is a tease for what could happen later, is that they do get caught, and then he ends up getting in trouble. So it would just completely come out of left field if that is a situation that happens where he is in trouble, and he just so happens to be near his sister, and maybe somebody gets to him, and instead of getting him, they get his sister. That'll be very deep, very, very dark, but that is exactly what I think would be enough to push Tasha to say, okay, you know what, I don't want anything to do with James anymore, and I will have to take action against him. I will testify against him, whatever. I really think that's the incident that would really completely tear the family apart. So I just wanted to give Rainy J a shout out, because that's a very, very great observation. But we have to see what happens. But I just wanted to get some thoughts, whether or not, what do you guys think about something like that happening?
So that theory is so good that I absolutely have to play devil's advocate, you know, just to try and convince myself that that's not going to happen. So here's what, like, I'll say to that. It could be a case where, you know, they find out Kanan is still alive, and that, you know, Tariq has kind of been messing with him. So maybe they send away, you know, Raina and maybe the other child to deal with what's happening with, you know, Tariq and Kanan, so that, you know, they're out of harm's way. So it could be a situation where she's sent away or something. But that's just me playing devil's advocate, though. So yeah, but that theory is amazing. The one that, you know, the comment I gave.
Hey,
what do you guys think?
I like that. That's good. That's good theory. Let's hope she is sent away and not, you know, brutally killed, because that would be a heartbreaker for everybody watching the show. But we'll see. How about you, Dana?
My heart wouldn't break. I actually like that theory, very much so. But the thing is that why I don't kind of like Gary's is that if they, not Gary, I'm sorry. Yes, Gary. The reason why I don't really like your theory so much, because if they send away her, then that means they're going to send away Tariq. And then that means that there's less of a chance of Tariq dying or getting his behind whooped.
Well, maybe they don't send away Tariq. Maybe Tariq's actually with
why
Kanan.
send one child away and not the other one?
Maybe Tariq's actually with Kanan at the time.
I just don't see them like not sending one and not. You're gonna just. I don't see it. I really don't. But I kind of like the theory of her being killed. Very much so. That would, the repercussions that everyone would have to pay because of that one would be very heavy, and will take the season into a very different direction, and it will actually have a more realistic impact, because that is something that does happen. So I like that theory the best. Or maybe she just gets tired and they do a whole Family Matters episode where she just walks up the stairs and we never see her again.
Hey,
no,
it's possible. But let me just
simple as that.
That is possible. But let me ask a real quick question, and then we will get ready to wrap up after that. I just want to ask: are we all on the general consensus that when this season ends, that will essentially be that when Ghost finally figures out, oh, Kanan is still alive, well, now I need to kill him? Because if we are on that consensus, I think we can all agree that something will definitely happen that will alert him as to that this guy is still alive. So I just wanted to ask that question.
I think it's overdue. I think like if Jamie gets out and everything, like I think it's going to be overdue, and they need to find out, Kanan is alive this season. Like I think it absolutely has to happen.
Yes.
Maybe Tariq will tell him through some weird way, and he'll find out that way.
Yeah,
I definitely.
Slim.
He'll be like, "Hey, Dad, I'm gonna go see this guy," and Jamie inquires about him, and he doesn't really know the full name yet, but he puts it together, and he realizes that it's actually Kanan.
Yeah, I can see that.
And Tariq does it out of like spite and anger. Be like, "Yeah, I'm hanging out with this guy now, and he's better than you."
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility.
That's possible. Very possible. Although although I think now the character doesn't really care, so he would probably just go and just go wherever without telling his parents nothing, and that will lead to eventually Ghost will find out. Say, hey, wait a second, that's who he's been hanging out with. I thought I killed that mother. Shut your mouth. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, Dana, you was gonna say one last thing.
No, that was my theory. I'm gonna stick with that. That Tariq seems to be, he's in that stage where he could be very spiteful, and they just figure it out. He goes and he tells him, and then he doesn't think anything of it because he doesn't know the full situation.
Yeah, there's so many possibilities, so I can't wait to see what the commenters are gonna say this week. Shout outs to all of you guys, Nelly Mac, and everyone else who comments on the show. Thank you very much, and we hope that you continue to do so. We hope that someday you'll even join us on the show. That would be cool. But yeah, for now, we're actually going to get out of here. I'm very much looking forward to the next episode, because I feel like now this season is really starting to open up, and we're in for a lot of good stuff and a lot of plot twists at this point, I think. So I'm looking forward to episode 5. So yeah, can't wait. This was a great episode. Things are really picking up, and yeah, shout outs to the whole crew at Starz who write this show and produce this show, because you're all very talented. You guys got any final words? Go ahead, Dana.
No, everything seems to be heading in the very right direction. I look forward to the next episode and seeing how that plays out. Hopefully it doesn't let us down. I don't really see it letting us down. So far, I'm looking forward to what's going to happen with the trial. That's the big main thing. I'm looking forward to seeing Tasha building that backbone and leaving, and hopefully not ending up on a stripper pole. So that would be very good. But so far, I like how everything is turning out. And bring on the public school.
Indeed. Bring on the ass whoopings. And how about you, Rich?
That too.
Oh yeah, great show thus far. Once again, thanks Starz for allowing us to check out the episode, and definitely looking forward to episode 5 next week.
Cool. Yeah. So that's it from us. We'll see you next week. Peace.